Hey guys, we made it to season 5 of the Us People podcast. I'm your host, Savia Rocks, and in this season, we aim to empower and embrace creativity through diversity as we dive into the fascinating stories and experiences of a diverse range of individuals, highlighting their unique perspectives and creative endeavors. From artists and entrepreneurs to innovators and activists, we celebrate the power of diversity in driving creativity and fostering positive change. Join us as we engage in thought-provoking conversations like
I made myself intentionally homeless in pursuit of my purpose.
We're aware that a lot of people want to present and they were in my position and what's worse, they weren't a white male, which is a joke that's even still a thing.
I think my family never ever say you can't do something. So full of support for whatever dream. If I said tomorrow I want to fly to the moon, they'll probably say I wish you all the best, Mel.
So guys, I just want to say thank you for supporting the Us People podcast for the past 5 years. And we look forward to sharing another new theme song with you. Let's go.
Hi, my name is Angela and I am an Afro hair coach and a makeup artist. You're listening to Us People podcast with Savia Rocks.
I had to overcome a lot of obstacles just to get here.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Us People podcast. I'm your host, Savia Rocks, and today I am abundantly humbled to have Angela Stewart here with me, who is a makeup artist for TV and films and an Afro hair care coach. So this is something that I love because my big hair needs some care from time to time. So it is nice to have someone on the show who understands the depth of I'm sure we're going to talk about many subjects, and I'm just excited to have someone who is an educator on this. So Angela, thank you so much for taking your time to come on the Us People show. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. I am feeling a little bit, I won't say overwhelmed, but I'm just like so humbled that you even asked me because I listen to your podcast and I'm like, but who, me?
Oh,
So yeah, I'm really good. At the moment, I'm feeling truly blessed. So thank you for having me.
you're more than welcome. One thing I always say to people, it's about people's stories. Nobody is higher than another person, I believe, in the world. And I think sometimes we can get consumed by who a person is or what they do sometimes. And for me, I just see everyone as an equal person.
Mm-hmm.
Even me, when I go out, just as an equal, humble person. I don't mind people bumping into me. I prefer life like that, to be quite fair.
Yeah.
I find privacy such an important factor in my life and for my family, as I'm sure you do as well in what you do. So thank you for coming on the show. Without people like yourself, I wouldn't have a show.
You're very welcome.
Cool. That's cool. So Angela, my first question for you is, could you define who you are as a person, but also your background and how that influenced you to be the person who you are today?
That is a really deep and broad question.
It is.
Oh, okay. You may have to remind me of points because I may
No, that's
wander
fine.
off
I'm
onto
here.
a tangent.
I'm here
You
for
got
you.
me, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Okay, so first of all, who I am as a person. Well, oh, okay. Well, I guess the first way to start answering that is probably to list a bit of my heritage because that kind of pinpoints my background a little.
Yeah.
I am born in London in the 60s from parents who came from the Caribbean islands.
Mm-hmm.
One was from Barbados, the other's from St. Lucia.
Hey.
Oh, is this another conversation?
Solution side, yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, there we go. Now my parents were they had converted from being Catholics to being Seventh-day Adventist.
Oh.
So when I was born, they were Seventh-day Adventists. So I grew up in North London, in Stoke Newington,
Yeah, I know there.
in a fairly religious environment. The Seventh Day Adventist religion mirrors, I guess, that of the Jewish religion.
Yes.
And so every Friday evening, depending on sunset, we shut off all our electrical stuff.
Yes.
And Saturday evening, when the sun set, we uh, celebrated, if you like, the end of the day and got ready for the new week.
I like
Yeah,
that.
like back to normal,
Yeah.
pretty much. Now that religion had no problems with it, really, as far as religions go.
Mm.
But my father, who also became a pastor later on,
Mm.
like he created his own church, like a, if you like, a splinter, because he didn't quite agree with everything that was being taught. So, of course, family, we went with him. So I had, um, if you like, an institutionalized, restricted, um, suppressed, oppressed religious background, being in the church,
Yes.
to taking a sidestep, being told effectively that everything that I was taught, trained, and educated in is now somehow wrong. Which now that I'm talking to you about it, I realize how that can be quite confusing. I
It
was in
can be.
my, I was in my, I'd say my early teens when my father came out of the church, and hell, I had, excuse my language, I
Mm.
had puberty.
Mm.
I had childhood traumas, aside from the religion. And then I had childhood traumas of the religion, because in your head, you're trying to make sure that you don't go to hell,
Yeah.
and oh dear, I said, for example, a bad word, or I
Yeah.
thought evil of somebody else, or, there's all of this going on. And then I also have my father changing effectively religions, which made me think, well, does none of this actually matter? You
Mm.
know? Um, so all of that going on. Um, and then the bit that developed me into an Afro hair coach, I guess, or changed my viewpoint on hair.
Yeah.
Part of my childhood traumas meant that although I came from a very large family, I was essentially alone. Um, And on top of that, I couldn't, my mother, in this large family, there were just two girls, one, me
Oh.
being one of them, obviously. Um, and I couldn't understand why my mother had such difficulty with my hair. Um, all I knew as a child growing up was that it hurt. Everything
Yeah.
hurt. And
Yeah.
I just assumed that she didn't like me, because we, of course, in a the black environment, you also have colorism. Yeah.
That is
To
very true.
explain
I
what
can
that
talk
is.
to you about this all day.
Oh, yeah.
Mm.
Within my family unit, we have the lighter people and we had the darker people. My mother and most of my siblings were lighter skinned,
Yeah.
and my father was
Same.
darker skinned, and I took more after
It's
him.
exactly the same.
So that's the skin, never mind the hair texture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my sister had more of my mother's hair texture. It's still pretty much Afro in description, but the curls were not as tight. So when it came to washing it and combing
It
it
was
out,
easy to
it
just.
was easier. Whereas mine was, as they term it nowadays, 4C. It was the tightest curl. And when you have a parent who washes it like, I grew up now, we're talking 70s.
Yeah.
When you have a parent who follows the silver, what's it called, Silvercrin, or was it Vosine adverts? You're probably too young to even know this, but it's beautiful
I'm not that far
blonde.
off you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
I'm
another
not that far.
conversation we're gonna have. Okay. Oh my, we have so much to talk about.
Yeah.
So the advert was this beautiful, dead straight blonde hair, and you'd see her happily doing these great big circular motions in washing it in slow motion, and then in rinsing it, it fell flat and straight and whatever, and then you'd condition it and you should be combing it out. Now, I don't know whether my mum was influenced by that or whether it was her
Yeah.
own experiences of having Afro hair, and again, to go back further, which will explain why I developed the training method that I have or my understanding, my mum's mum was from Panama. So her
Mm.
hair was, if anything, wavy.
Yeah.
And I remember meeting her once as a 4-year-old. It was wavy. It was an afro in any shape or form.
Mm.
And my mom, of all of her siblings, had the curliest hair. So
Okay.
maybe it was my mother's experience of, well, this is what you have to do. You just got to get through it, was why I had my experience
Mm.
of, suck it up, cry if you want, get your knuckles wrapped with the comb, etc., etc., etc. So in having my somewhat isolated experience, my mind was able to wonder, well, why was this?
Yeah.
And as soon as I could, um, I can't miss this one bit out because by no means did I stop crying because I grew up. I stopped crying because my mom had to go back to Barbados and she left me to a neighbor to do my hair. Now, as a 6-year-old or somewhere thereabouts, I couldn't have her see me crying. So
Yeah.
I stopped crying at that point.
I
But
get you.
it, so I,
Yep.
I can't sort of like say, yes, I magically became this wonderful person. But no, circumstances and source, the universe, whatever, put a situation in my way that I had to deal with it as
Mm.
myself, as a young child, I guess. Um, and from there, I did my own hair successfully, taught myself how to plait, again, in this isolated environment where I didn't have really any contact with my siblings in my home unless I felt marginalized or picked on or something.
Yeah.
And then we had summer school, which, again, you're sort of like being shifted off. And in a large family, you don't have, I don't know, you just feel as though you're a burden, as though I felt as though, just looking at the bigger picture now, I felt as though we were poor. I felt as though we were had to work hard. I felt as though we shouldn't complain. I felt as though we can't talk to other people outside the house. All of these rules, restrictions, and uh,
It's like
ha-
being suppressed in your own body.
and squeezed into nothingness. So I felt, above
Mm.
all, insignificant. Above all,
And that's so far
insignificant.
from the truth.
Well,
It
you're
is.
100% right.
It's so far from the truth. I find that a lot of people, especially in cultures, I remember, it's funny that you tell that story because I remember my mother actually perming my hair because
Really?
she's got Indian hair. So Indian
Ah,
hair is long and straight, right? It's long and straight. Like there's not one curl in sight. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. I'm half Indian and half black. So I took I took more of my dad's side where his thickness is thick. Yes, my hair is soft,
yeah,
really soft,
but it
but
was still curly.
it was still curly
Mm.
and it was still painful. It was pain. You can, I
Mhm.
literally felt every tug and pull,
Yeah.
and every time I tried to touch my hair, it's true. Your hands will get smacked with the comb.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So
Or you get labeled with being tender-headed, as though you're
yeah,
meant to disassociate, is a really good word. Your
yeah,
yourself from your skin, from your hair.
yeah. So
Yeah. So
and it
yeah.
was, there was a point where she permed my hair and then she burnt my
Oh, she did it
nail.
herself.
Yeah. And like, oh, yeah, see the face? Yeah. And she she burnt, like, it's still tender to this day
Mm.
because, and I always say to like try and stay away from any of those chemicals, and that's why I decided to go natural, whereas my hair was constantly always straight.
Yeah.
And I think that I was trying to fit in with society, and then praise the universe for bringing me a partner that said, leave your hair as it is,
Yeah.
it's beautiful as it is. And then
Wonderful.
I that imposter syndrome to do with my hair left, and I haven't looked back since. And for you, I just feel like you were compressed into a small, everything was compressed into a small box, and you had to shut that box, even with a large majority of your personality within it, because your hair represents a massive part of your personality, as well as the way you
100%.
dress, as well as the way you speak, more than anything, your personality.
Mm.
So I can only imagine you being, and when you're younger, I was taught that, you develop your personality from a certain age to a certain age,
Mm,
and that defines you. So for you having to suppress that
mm.
would have been really hard for you.
It was. It was. As a teenager, I felt I needed to be really bolshy, like really in
Mm,
people's faces. I had to be bigger than I was. I had to put up a shield where I would be pushing them away before they would even try and get close. I had to it's like a puffer fish. I was like
mm,
this. I had spikes, you know. I admired, could never do it because of my father's religion. I admired punks. I admired anyone that, biker jackets, loved motorbikes. But I think it's because I felt they personified what I wanted to be, like someone who didn't care what anyone else said.
mm-hmm.
Um, Somebody who was brave enough to do other things because they weren't waiting for someone else to give them permission.
Yeah.
Um, but I also understood that they were people who went way the other way on the pendulum just to make their point, and I
Yeah.
felt that that was unnecessary. Yeah. I'm a very individual person for sure. Um, but I think up until um, my first act of rebellion against that was when I was 49. Right? So that's just
Wow.
goes to show how much, even as much as I developed my, like you say, my dress is very unique.
Yeah.
I From a teenager at college, I would deliberately buy clothes in the sale. I didn't want to wear what everybody else was wearing, and
Mm-hmm.
that's still me to some degree. But it was only when I was 49 that I decided, well, I've always wanted to do this. I don't have parents now telling me no. I don't have a religion that I believe in terms of restriction.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in energy. I believe in, I guess it's to be able to describe it in a nutshell. I believe more in the Buddhist type of connectivity with the world and
Mm,
oneself.
that's what I am.
So,
Mm,
ah,
mm.
well, that will explain a lot, wouldn't it? And yeah, I realized that if I was going to do it, it was on me, full
Mm.
responsibility.
And there's
And
nothing wrong with you. There's
nothing wrong
nothing
with
wrong with
me
you
at
doing
all.
it. I'm
No.
I'm I'm surprised that you didn't do it at a younger age. Even though I always say to people, there is no perfect time to do it. The main thing is that you go out and do it, and you find your happiness in doing it. You could be 10 years old, you could be 30 years old, you could be 80. I know some people who've started businesses at like 60 or 70 and
Yeah.
have gone on to flourish because that's what they wanted to do, but because of
Yeah.
family and friends suppressing them or having an opinion, which families do and friends
Mm.
do, they felt like it took them a longer time to
Shall I tell
encourage
you
themselves.
something that I find really interesting?
Mm,
So when I hit 50 was my beginning year of personal development. So really looking into this and understanding why we even do things or don't do things. So in the beginning, you're given a box, a frame as a child.
yep.
Your parent has to raise you, hopefully with some sort of morals, some sort of preservation, some sort of enough belief in self to troubleshoot if one needs to.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's say that is the perfect framework.
Hmm.
Now, let's say you have parents who simply believe that their way is correct, their way is right. And that's how you've been taught, trained, educated, reinforced, reinforced, reinforced. Even though they're out of the picture, which for me was around my 30s, it took me that other 20 years of almost like going through PTSD type symptoms.
Yes.
Yeah. Where I would, the fleas, do you know um, that
I know.
experiment where they put fleas in the box?
Yep.
Where you're hitting a wall and that there's no actual wall there, but your own mindset, your own self-consciousness is saying, okay, that's it, back you go. I can't do this because blah blah blah. Um, it's not even a case of saying my mother won't approve. Suddenly, your mum's voice has merged into your own, and you're saying, "Oh, can't do that."
That's the mental impact.
Oh my god.
That's what I call it. I call it the mental impact.
Yeah.
And until you cleanse yourself away from the mental impacts of their insecurities and narratives that they have in their
Yeah.
mind, that they
Yeah.
have inflicted onto you because of
Yeah.
their insecurities,
Yeah.
and the problem with parents or role models or siblings that have grown you up, what they
Mm,
do is those insecurities that they have, they're too focused on what other people are saying and doing and will say about you and will say about them, about teaching you to be free within yourself. So what they do is they put you in a box,
mm,
and then they say you're only allowed to do this, 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 and this. If you go and do this one, you're gonna go straight to this one. And mentally, in your mind, you have that surprise. And it's funny because we always keep the negative thing in our mind
yeah. It stays more.
for far greater than the 50 positive things
Yeah.
about breaking free and
Yeah.
doing what we want to do in order for us to be ourselves. And that's one thing I love saying to people is that you can't live in your mother or father's life. It's your life. But the greatest key is now that you've been through what you've been through, I hope, and I'm sure you have, shown your children that there is another way.
Yeah. 100%. Of course, that requires you waking up. Otherwise,
Exactly.
you're just repeating.
Exactly.
So, yeah, at some point, I was able to stand back enough to realize that my kids were suffering. They were suffering because I was not even repeating what my parents, the restrictions my parents were doing. My husband and I went to great pains because we both came from challenging childhood
Yeah. I can
scenarios.
only imagine. Yeah.
And so we already knew what they were not going to have to deal with. But invariably, because we also hadn't dealt with our own individually, we were actually putting them under a different type of stress.
Yes.
Yeah, so we had a bit to overcome. And then I realized how much I personally, because as much as you want to be a unit, only you can take care of yourself.
It's true.
I can't hand that over to my husband. I couldn't hand it over to my parents. I can't hand it over to my doctors. I can't hand over to my pastor or my religious leader or whatever. It's me. Yeah, it's me, my responsibility. And when I won't lie, when I figured that if I didn't do something, I wasn't going to be around for much longer,
Yeah.
then I had to take responsibility because I could see my girls there and I knew that they were going to have so much to deal with.
Yeah.
Um, My mom, I believe, is still alive. Still alive. She's still around, and I was left to deal with it myself. My father passed maybe 20, 30 years ago, and my relationship with my mom was not one in which I could go and say, "Hey, I'm suffering."
Oh, tell me about it.
So I had to deal with it, and as much as my husband, my partner, my soulmate, my
Mm.
everything, as much as he tried to help, he couldn't. And if I didn't take care of it, it was going to destroy everything. So I had to sort myself out. And the moment I did that, uh, oh my God, so grateful. So grateful. I could see my daughters, whatever position they were stuck in, they suddenly went,
Yeah. It's
and
like a break of freedom.
oh my God. And
Mm.
as far as I'm concerned, now I know from never mind the mistakes I made as a young parent. But now I know that if they have to, they can look back at that objectively and they can see where they are now and know what they can do now to move forward. Because I can't change the past. All I can do is take responsibility for it. They are aware of that. And if, as you know, children do not listen to a word you say.
It
But what
goes
they
until
but
it's
what
too late. I should have listened to my parents, you know.
if you're lucky, yeah. But what they do is they watch you. They watch you and they learn from what you do.
Yep.
Everything, even if it wasn't a parent situation, whoever raised you, you observed more and took in more than you realized. Yeah, it's literally subconscious. Suddenly you're like, there's this old story of how uh a wife used to cut the meatloaf and nicely present it on the table or whatever, the steak of, no, the roll of beef or whatever. And the husband asked her one day, why do you cut the ends off? It's very nice, but why do you cut the ends off? She said, I don't know. I'm going to ask my mum. She asked her mum. She said, I don't know. My mum always used to do it. I'm going to ask my mum. So asked the grandmother now, our great grandmother. And she said, well, the dish I had was too long, so I used to cut the ends off so it would fit. But it had become a family tradition, right? Now I'm retelling something that's been told. If the people who have been to the training I've been to would know this story. But there you go. You do things and you don't even know why you do it. So, yeah, you observe. It's not because mum said this is how you do it and it looks nice. It's because she's always done it. That's why you do it.
Yeah.
So, I have learned to be very careful with what I do because they're watching. And since I freed myself, not only have I seen them flourish in what they do, but if they need to, they can come and say, hey, mum. And that for me is like the greatest blessing because I know I can't do that to mine.
I
So
think I think
yeah.
I think some of the greatest things that I've ever done to set myself free from my parents, and I'm very open about it, is I wrote a letter to them. They're still alive. I wrote a letter to them, and in that letter, I just articulated how I felt because for me, being a writer is one of the most powerful things that you can do in a form of expressing your emotions. So being able to write, and you don't have to give it to them. It's not that the letter is just for you to let it
Mm,
out,
yeah. Yeah.
let it out, and you have many different forms. You can post it to yourself. You can do loads of different things, but it's about just getting it out, and
Yeah.
that's a form. Or you can spiritually cleanse yourself by blessing yourself to get rid. But when we were born, I was told when we were born with 7 generations of trauma within us.
I can believe that.
and
Yeah.
and sometimes always thought to myself, why do I have a pain in my back? Or why is why am I feeling this way? Or am I
Mm,
an empath because I'm feeling the emotions of everyone else around me? And it's just understanding it. So when you get more spiritually aware
mm,
of things that you've seen, like you said, but also things that you were born with.
mm,
Oh my gosh, things that you were born with, and understanding where they came from, you can, if you want to, get rid of them. You can, if
yeah.
you want to, or you can use them as a form of strength
Yeah.
to like you do with your daughters,
Yeah.
And I think that's a beautiful thing. I think even though I am going to ask you this next question, I feel like you've told me a high majority of it.
Uh-huh.
But sometimes in asking the question, something beautiful pops out. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm going to ask you, can you define yourself as a person, and who do you see when you look in the mirror? But on the flip side of that question, has there ever been a time you have looked in the mirror and not recognized the person staring back at you? How did you manage to go from a person that you may not have liked seeing the reflection of to becoming the person who you are happy with and know that this is the person that you want to become?
Okay. Okay. Give me the first part of that question again.
Can you define yourself as a person?
Yeah. I try to simplify it into 3 words.
Mm-hmm.
Um, honest,
Mm-hmm.
kind,
Mhm.
loyal.
I like that. That's good enough for me. And then the next part of the question is, who do you see when you look in the mirror?
Now
Mm-hmm.
I see me.
Next part of the question. What does your reflection say back to you? And you say you see yourself.
Mm.
The next part of the question is, has there ever been a time when you have looked in the mirror and not recognized the person staring back at you?
Yes, that particular episode, maybe, so age-wise, I'm nearly 60, but 56. Come February, I turn 57. And more than half of my life, I didn't recognize the person I saw, didn't like the person I saw.
Mm.
And coming, I would say, like I said, 50 was my turning point. So maybe the last 10 years, I didn't even want to look in. Not saying anything negative about my mum right now, but as my mum was my main focus,
Mm-hmm.
the worst case scenario for me was when I looked in the mirror and thought I saw my mum. I was not happy. I was not happy. And that's physically. I wasn't happy. I didn't see the person I thought I was. And coming to the end of my 40s, like I said, as if my family, my immediate family, my children, my husband listen to this, I hope it doesn't distress them, but they know the situation. Coming to that point, um, the unhappiness I saw in the mirror, you know what it's like? Is the word masticized? You know, when it becomes a physical problem?
Yes.
I had developed arthritis. I had developed secondary problems to that arthritis because, of course, I was taking tablets. I was leaning heavily on a walking stick. I believed I was ill. I believed there was something wrong with my mind. I believed I had ADHD. I believed I had, what else was there? Not dementia, what's the other one? That I must have been Asperger's. Everything because I felt my mind wasn't working. And so I once, well, it depends on one's belief. I know mine, um, merely because of my experiences. So I'm not just saying I believe, I believe. I know because not only did I have those things, I saw it come and create and develop, I also reversed it and removed it.
Yes.
I don't have arthritis anymore. I have to be careful, yeah, sure, because, everything leaves scars and problems. But via MRI, I know that it's not there. Yeah. So the rest of it is now mindset, just
Yes.
taking care of oneself.
Yep.
So I had disliked the person I was so much that I didn't want to see that person. That by this time, I think the complete disconnection and disassociation had passed, and I was merely existing. And how I turned it around, like I said, so many people say this, and I don't think people realize the power in it,
Mm-hmm.
is when you stop looking at yourself. Yes, you've got to take care of yourself, but when you stop looking at yourself and try to care for somebody else, that shifts your desire, if you like, for life and for health. And I can't actually remember what it was that actually triggered it, but in the back of my mind was this niggling knowledge that my daughters were going to struggle. They were going to struggle. And if I succeeded and removing myself from this plane of existence, how were they going to cope?
Yeah.
But if I loved them, why would I do that to them? So it's like my mind was going like, you're causing them bigger pain than if I would smack them. I'm causing them mental pain, which is really hard for someone to get over by themselves.
Yep.
And I can't sit there and say, okay, girls, this is this and this and this and this and this. Like I said, talking doesn't really help. And if they've got a mind block or not a mind block, if they're already thinking to themselves, well, mum's really looking after herself, how can she tell me how to how to take care of my mental health when I can see she's suffering. So I took steps to take care of myself. It wasn't even that cut and dry. I just thought to myself, hell, I'm going to be 50 next year. You know what? I'm going to do something for me. Darn it.
It's about that. Yep. I agree.
It
I
was
agree.
it was entirely selfish, but I'm telling you what, it was the best decision I'd ever made. It's like the last 6 years, nearly 7 years, has been the golden years, the best years of my life, the best years of my family's life. We have lived, we have lived, we have lived, we have loved,
I
we have
like that.
expressed ourselves. Um, I'm sure, I'm not saying I've done everything, opened all the, removed all the, not even, not removed the pain, but I'm sure I've not opened all the doors to be able to discuss all the pain. But
Hmm.
I know that they are in a place where, especially my youngest, where they can say, you know what, um, I never understood this, but I had a really frank conversation with dad, and he's let me know that this has happened and that has happened, and it's really
Yeah.
changed my viewpoint on where things have started. And I appreciate you allowing me to speak about it, because I'm not saying that I'm like, I am human. It hurts knowing that I caused that particular um, action or thought or pain. It hurts knowing that ultimately the cause was me,
Mm.
even if I was just completely cut off from reality and not looking to see what sort of ripples I was putting out. It hurts. Realization is not a beautiful thing. But in the Buddhist mindset, I have to accept all sensation, all
Hmm.
feeling, all action. It helps me to accept responsibilities. Nothing
Yeah.
saying that it's not going to hurt, but at least I'm not trying to defend it, because then I could be more causing even more hurt.
Yes.
Yeah. So I've seen the changes happening. Um, that's how I changed it around. I didn't say I'm going to try and focus on my daughters. That didn't help. I removed my blockages first, and then they could see that they were able to talk to me. And then that caused something else to happen, which caused something else to happen, which caused something else to happen. That dominoes effect.
Yep. It's that ripple effect that happens.
I,
But
I I think if someone sat there and said, Angela, this is what you need to do, I probably wouldn't have believed them and wouldn't know where to start. I believe there is a point in everyone's life where they just simply say, this can't go on.
yes, enough is enough.
Yeah,
It's like finding that courage point, like Superman.
yeah, yeah. In a way, you have to not get to that point where you don't care what anyone
Yes,
else
that's
says.
a dangerous point.
It is.
I think that's one of the most dangerous points. And I hope everyone finds their Superman point before they find that I don't care point, because that in itself can cause a ripple effect, and
Oh,
sometimes there's no going back from it. So I'm a big fan of finding your Superman point or your Superwoman point. There is no gender on super,
mm,
but just finding your point that will levitate you to the point where you're like, this is who I am, that I'm happy in this place. I feel relieved, I feel powerful, I feel I am somebody, which everyone is, but it just takes time for people to realize
yeah,
that
that they
they
are.
are that somebody.
And it's not because of any outside validation. It's just because they have the right to be there. That's all.
That's literally all it is.
Did I
You
answer your question?
you sure did.
Hey, cool.
You sure did.
Okay.
So I'm going to talk about hair now.
Mm,
So I'm a big fan of hair. I'm a big fan of watching people do. I find it fascinating. Maybe I'm a bit of a nerd, but I find technology fascinating. I find history fascinating. I find
mm.
culture, writing, photography. I find all these things fascinating.
Yeah, I noticed
And
that. Wide range of interests. Okay.
but the
Life.
life and the most beautiful thing is that I always love education, but even if I don't like someone's opinion or perspective on things, it's giving them the right to have the opinion to say it. I find that also really beautiful as well, because even if two people do not agree, there is something that we both can learn from each other.
100%.
And I carry that. So my question for you is, being an educator of hair, and I've heard your story from where it began. Talk to me about the importance of culture and our ancestry when it comes to hair. I feel that as generations go by, some of our ancestry about culture and our hair is lost because not every generation understands the culture of hair and how our hair is and how it should be, and how social media plays a huge part in how they think our hair should, could, and has to be. I
Mm,
know this is a big question,
mm.
but to help the next generation or even people in our generations understand the importance about history and hair.
Mm. Not too sure where to start with this. Um, when I'm teaching, or when I decided to coach Afro hair, and specifically the title, I don't want to. I am an Afro hair educator, yes.
Mm,
Um, I don't teach Afro hair styling
mm,
because Afro hair care and maintenance is more important.
yeah.
And as part of that, the styling comes into it. I was speaking to a colleague a little while back, and she's aware that I run these classes. As a makeup artist, I teach other makeup artists, but
Yeah.
I also teach hairstylists. I also teach family members because of what I realize it's possible that my mum's experience taught her how to handle hair, in which case, and it has borne out that either we're taught the wrong way or we're not taught at all. And
Yeah.
with the societal images around us, we think that it needs to be this, and if it's not this, then it's going to be difficult, or including the language that is used. We have to detangle our hair, we have to do this, we have to use X amount of things to make it soft, to make it or that the visual sight of our hair, if it shrinks, oh my god, the shrinkage, what's wrong with your hair shrinking? It's actually its natural state.
Mm-hmm.
And there are plenty of images out there of women who have, like, my hair is 4C, to try to give a broad indication, which everyone's aware of now, the categories. I have seen people with tighter curls than mine whose hair comes down like past their shoulders,
Yes. Yeah.
right? So we have this thing about length. It's got nothing to do really with any blackness, and more to do with the fact that we're in a Western society where straight and lengthened hair or big soft bouncy curls is the standard of beauty. Yeah. So I teach not only my colleagues so that the people in the TV and film industry who come into contact them, and photographic industry who come into contact them, have a more humane, let's use that word, experience of having their hair styled or cared for in whatever fashion the thing requires. But I also teach parents because I'm aware that either they had no experience themselves or had a negative experience. And like most people with very painful hair experiences, they simply disassociate from it. There's no
Mm.
feeling from the forehead up. Yeah. They're either going to expect pain. I've been in situations where people simply say, yeah, don't worry, you can go harder. What? No, 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 I'm used to it. Tug, it's fine, it's fine. It's like, "Oh, no, 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 no. That's not acceptable, and you should not be used
Yeah.
to that. You should not be used to that. But this is the norm." I can't even remember the question now. Savia, you're gonna have to remind me. I told you I'm gonna go on a tangent. And what was it you were saying?
So
Why is it
we're
important?
yeah, why is it important to teach the culture of hair, and in
Okay.
society why it's lost?
All right, let me try and condense it. One, it's important because it's our heritage.
Yeah.
All right. And the way society, in all its images and all its products, oh my God, walking into an Afro hair shop, what? Very confusing. Um, it's important to understand that we need none of these things. It's also important because it's so I have to be careful. I don't want to get you like into trouble.
You can never get me into trouble, my dear. I'm about breaking boundaries all the time.
Okay, fine. Then let's talk truth about the products that in or the chemicals that are in some of the
You know, that was my next
things.
question.
Ah, okay. So this is why heritage is important. We think that to see our natural curls is a problem. So we use things to make it appear straighter. But these things, especially the general store-bought ones, the reason why there's so much choice out there is because it then gets mass produced, and then if you want to view it the way I do, it's a delivery system to put stuff into our bodies. Because remember, we're not in our own environment, as in uh, a black country, a
Hmm.
black society. So we have to, I don't want to say look at it as a hostile environment, but we have to be aware that we can't believe what someone is giving us as being good for our health, especially as there is documented evidence, even if though it might be suppressed, that these things mess our, is the word endocrine system, our
Yes, that's correct.
hormones.
Yes.
Yeah, our skin, including our scalp, absorbs. It
Even more
absorbs the
so.
chemicals, exactly. And then it gets trapped into our system, and then we can't do anything about it. Yeah, it's then develops into a cancer, or into fibroids, or into a difficulty to having children, or even to what's the other one? Endometriosis.
Hmm.
Yeah, all of these things I cannot, and it's not just the hair products, but because we're talking about hair, that's where I'm going to stop it. It's also our food. If you're not making the food yourself, you have no idea what they've got in there as a preservative. No idea.
That's why I want a farm in the middle of nowhere. That's the goal. The
Yeah,
farm in the middle of nowhere.
hear that. So this is why the education is so important. On top of that, if anyone had an experience like me, which I know they did, I'm going to take it as yours and my experience as being the general
Hmm.
experience, not everybody, but the general experience, that you disassociate from your hair and do everything to make your hair um, uh, uh, be something else, that you idolize someone with different types of hair, you're actually damaging your own mental health. This
Yes.
is mental health in action that you are reinforcing as you go, that without speaking, you pass on to your child. I've been in situations where I've had women with their own hair has been, they're either wearing a wig or have their hair in plaits or something. The more advanced ones would have their hair in plaits, but usually it's either a wig or their hair has been relaxed.
Hmm.
4-year-old girl,
Hmm?
4-year-old girl, hair relaxed. The front ends have been broken off because all the mum does is brushes it back into a ponytail. I said, "Oh, is her?" Because as in my job, I know what it is, but I have to have a conversation with the parent
Hmm.
as I would if the person was an adult. Oh, is your hair relaxed? Oh, have you straightened your hair? Is it with heat? So that we're having that conversation. I can assess it and I can see, but I am determined that that person not only takes responsibility for what they've done or who they've done it to, if it's not themselves, but also so that I'm trying to make them think. I'm not
Yeah.
in a position where I'm like, yeah, I'm the expert. I'll do it. Don't worry. Off you go. Right. So I asked the mother, is her hair straightened or like with the heat thing, or is it relaxed? She goes, oh no, it's relaxed. I went, oh, how old is she? 4 years old. Oh, that not. Actually, I can't say that bit. But in my head, I'm thinking, is that not too young? But I didn't need to say anything because the mum came up with the excuse. Oh well, she and where this people of African descent, so their hair was curlier, tighter than mine,
Hmm.
so they think it's harder. Usually, their hair is stronger than mine. It's beautiful hair, but they just
Yeah.
don't know how to soften it enough to be able to manipulate it. So she goes, "Oh yeah, well she fusses when I comb it, so I just relax it. Not a lot, just texturize it, just texturize it." And I said, "Right, okay." So she had like about an inch where it was maybe about, yeah, you could see the curls because the hair had broken off where the new hair had grown,
Yeah.
right? And then there was this very hard, stiff upper part. So time being as it was, all I could do was somewhat soften the thing the upper part of the hair, and she said, "All right, don't worry about the front. You know, that's broken off." And I said, "No, no, no. It's very easy to do." So I put a little bit of water on, got some olive oil, which I always carry in my kit, brush that on, and then gently brush the hair backwards. Child didn't fuss, child barely looked sideways, nothing. It was all smoothed out. I obviously couldn't use heat or anything to straighten it out,
Yes.
which I wouldn't have done, but it was brushed out. And so it wasn't no longer like in its own little broken off bit that looks as though you don't want to associate with it. You know, now,
Yeah.
like I'm saying, inside, this child has learned not to fuss with her hair, or that her hair is. I've met adults who say, like, you know, they're in their 20s before they stopped relaxing their hair because relaxed hair is all they knew, but now they don't know how to deal with their hair. Yeah. And this mum was training her child to be that way. And all I could see was the problem uh, restarting all the time, coming back up, coming back up. And why? Because mum, in this case, didn't want to know.
Yeah.
But in most cases, they simply don't know, so they can't pass on uh, anything, that builds that child's self-esteem. They're always on the back foot. They're always trying to fix their hair. They're always trying to fit in. They always think they need to fit in. So it's their own voice. We're going right back to what we started now,
The
the
imposter
beginning of our
syndrome.
conversation. They
Yeah.
they think that they can't look at themselves because they don't like what they see. They put on tons of makeup, they try to lighten their skin, they straighten their hair, they wear wigs with this.
I've seen it all, believe me.
Yeah,
I've seen it
they,
all.
and it is a style choice. One of the wonderful things about our hair and our heritage is we
Mhm.
can put things in our hair, we can cover our hair, we can straighten our hair, we can leave our hair curly, whatever. We can put it in locks, we can put it in plaits, we can restyle it. This is the beautiful versatility of our hair type. But they don't know this. And they're stuck in this one position of trying to be someone else, which is bound to cause a problem in their psyche. So, yes, I think Afro hair education is really important. I'm a coach because I'd like to teach people how I'd like to change their mindset
Yep.
on how, first of all, they think about Afro hair. Is it hard? Well, actually, no. Do you use water? Well, no, because I'm trying to keep it straight. Well, actually, is it fragile? No, it's actually extremely strong, but only in its natural state. Let me show you how to get it to its natural straight state. And let me show you how to handle it without using a comb, without using a brush. They are tools, therefore making straight lines if
Yeah.
that's what you want. But you don't have to comb out your hair. You've been taught how to care for your hair using a method that is not designed for your hair.
That is very true.
So that's my little soapbox. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make a difference. I'm trying to change, as the majority of the world have some form of curly hair. I am trying to get them to change their viewpoint. At least they have to step away. That nothing is instant, especially if you've spent ages trying to straighten one's hair and blah 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 blah. It's dehydrated. It's going to take some time for the cuticles to be able to open up and for it to go back into its natural state.
You know, it's funny that you say that. So I'm so glad you did. The
Yeah.
first thing I'm going to say to you is that you're not trying, you are making a difference. So
Thank
humbly always say you are making a difference. That's just from me. And the
you.
second thing is, before I got married, my hair, I used to straighten my hair. And this is a good example as well. But when I was putting it to its natural state, which it is now, nice and curly,
Mm,
I noticed that I would wash my hair and just use aloe vera
mm.
in my hair, like this natural plant aloe vera in my hair. And for me, I was like, it felt like heaven because it was like, oh, this feels good.
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
then, but I noticed the bottom of my hair was still straight, like because it felt dead. It's like it was dead. So I had to nurture those parts of my hair more. And I
Mm.
wasn't using a comb. I was actually just using my hands and I realized how much of a difference it made. So now when I wear my big hair, I you see my hair before you see me, and then you see my dungarees because I love wearing dungarees, and then. But I always say to people, listen, the most painful thing I've ever been through is perming my hair. It's painful.
Yeah.
It's not even, I know I'm laughing now, right, Angela? But it's painful.
Yeah. I
And it's not
remember.
even 10 minutes. It's not even 10 minutes. That thing sits in your hair.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
With your hair type, it should not have been in that long. It really shouldn't. Just saying. But you
listen,
know this.
I listen, when you're sitting on the seat and your mother puts the perm in your hair and you're like, oh, mum, it's hurting me. Mum, it's hurting me. And then your mum's like, just no, it's not ready yet. What do you mean it's not ready? It feels like a string. And then they take it out. And even my friends were like, why were you perming your hair? And it just felt like I was being tortured. I'm being honest. I'm just letting it out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I don't want someone else to have to go through that same type of torture. Listen, please don't perm your hair, people. I'm just saying it. I'm sure Angela will agree with me, but she's allowed to have her opinion.
100%. There
Yeah.
is too much you can do with your natural hair. You can have it straight when you want it. Say, for example, I was doing the Goodwood Revival beginning of this month.
Mhm.
And usually I either have my hair in plaits or the last couple of years I've been leaving it exactly as it is now, and it's effectively wash and go style in its natural curl. And
Mhm.
I would corkscrew it to change its texture and create different styles. This time I decided I was going to use a straightener. GHD is a straightening tool.
Mhm.
And I used that, but because I knew it was going to be very wet that weekend, I also used like a serum, like a heat serum, like if you're doing a silk
Yes.
press, which I usually tell other people not to do. So I put it on thinking, okay,
Nah.
this is going to keep the hair, like the moisture away from my hair, so it's not going to revert as much. Got through my weekend, no worries at all. Came home and I thought, right, okay, it's time for it to go back to normal. I was disappointed to see how extended my hair was, and I'm like, okay, okay, you know, you're a coach. You knew this was going to happen. It's all right. You're doing fine. It's going to go back. And it did. It's still not 100% back. The sides are back to normal, but the top is still a little bit extended. But I can see my curls and I know that they're going to come back.
It
So,
will come
yeah.
back. Yeah. It will come back.
Our hair is so versatile. Straighten it if you want, plait it if you want, rest it and put a wig on if you want. But please, no chemicals. It's unnecessary. And
Yeah.
watch what you're putting on your hair. These what do they call them? Ah, begins with a K. Kera something. Can't think of the name right now. But there's like, and they tell you that if you use a blow drying thing, it's not as harsh as relaxers. I can't think of the name. It's completely gone from my head. But there is a serum you can put on your hair, almost like silk press, I guess. But the fact that you're using heat to seal down the cuticles means that you are, even in a soft fashion, changing almost permanently your curl pattern.
Mhm.
With mine, I knew I didn't do it too much, so I knew it would come back. But there are some people who have used other treatments, which they're saying, oh, well, they said it was only going to last 6 months, and the ends of my hair is still straight, but the upper part is now
That's
curly, and I've
exactly
got
what happened.
right. So it's like, no, just avoid it. Learn how to care for your hair by yourself.
Mm.
The best thing you can do. If you choose to do that, okay, fine, afterwards. But know how to care for it first, and then decide if you want to do that.
I love that. So let's talk about makeup.
Yeah,
I find makeup a source of creativity within art.
yeah.
Being able to do it on people's faces or bodies or wherever you decide to do it.
Mm.
So please talk to me about how you become creative within art, within makeup.
Um, well, that's really interesting. It's an interesting question because I would not class myself as um, a fashion makeup artist.
Mm.
I even though I wear like very bright clothes, I wouldn't
No, I like
necessarily.
that. That's the first one. I was like, that's cool.
I wouldn't. I'm not one who goes for really bold makeup. I like makeup that is natural, that is enhancing. Um, but as you can see, I don't wear
Yeah.
makeup. Um, I do see it as a tool. I get women who, everyone's like stuck in their own mental blocks. I know people who don't go to the sweet shop unless they've got at least
Yeah.
eyebrows on or mascara on or eyeliner. I've got to put foundation on, even if they do nothing else. And I'm thinking, well, if I'm in a job where someone has been asked not to wear makeup and they come in and they've got makeup on, which I now have to take off or try to work on top of because we have time restriction. And I asked them why they, or weren't they not told not to wear any? Like, oh yeah, but I had to come up on the train and so many people I'm gonna see. And I said, how many of them did you know? They go, oh, they don't know you. They're not going to judge you.
And some of them
And
actually find you more attractive in your natural form.
so beautiful. Some of them
Hmm.
are so beautiful, but they've gone for years, especially if they use the same makeup looks. I've had to. Some women have asked me for personal makeup classes because they're now in their 50s, but they're still using the same colors and method as they used when they were 18. So
Okay.
they're like, okay, I need to learn how to do it. And it's usually because they've come in, had a session with me for something else, realized that I've used one, a fraction of the makeup, and two, a tiny little bit here and there. And like, oh my God, my eyes are so much bigger. Oh my God, my brows are defined. And it's not this great big light brown, arch or
Looking
whatever,
like a
or brown
rainbow.
orange arch. It's like, and it's like, so, uh, if I have been hired to do something that is very has a very specific brief, then I can let my creativity out. But otherwise, it's a case of enhancing only what I see. If it's for film or for photography, then
Mm.
I know that something specific comes out, has to be emphasized. Then I focus on that. Um, how I can convert it from paper onto a face, though, I find that really interesting. The first time I did face painting, it felt very strange because the paper was warm.
Yes.
And
There you
so when
go.
I rested my hand on that, if it's a child, it's fine. You're doing it quite fast. But when it's an adult and say it was body painting, it's a very interesting process because the medium, like I say, is warm. And but you're in your mind's eye, you're overlaying your outcome onto this mobile and rounded surface to look as though it's either flat or, depending on what it is you need to create.
Mhm.
um that one was probably the biggest stretch for me, and it was only after going through my makeup training that I realized I didn't necessarily like changing a person's face. I just liked enhancing it or showing them
Yes.
if they felt, a little insecure about something or other. My words of "Don't worry, your eyebrows are not meant to be exactly identical." That's actually more strange than normal. So don't worry about that. So my words would reassure them, um, showing them if they wanted to wear makeup, how they could enhance their looks themselves without completely changing who they are. It hurts my heart sometimes to see some of the Instagram stuff.
Yeah.
Um, if it's just for that creative thing, then fine. But then they go out like that. I remember seeing somebody in one of our local shopping centers with this beautiful. The makeup was magnificent. I'm not sure I could have done that. Everything was on. It was perfectly baked. It looked like a mask that you could lift off like this,
Whoa.
down to the beautiful gold highlight with the point on the end of her nose. And we're in the middle of a shopping mall, and I'm thinking, if you're taking photographs, if you're on a, take it on a photo shoot, you're going to a party, yes, but this was in the middle of the day, and she obviously was just going to work or in a lunch break. And I'm like, that's too much makeup. Your skin's gonna suffer, your psyche's gonna suffer, especially if that's the first and last thing you always do. When you look at yourself in the mirror, you're not going to like who you see. You're not going to know who you're looking at, you know? So, wow. I'm going on a tangent again.
No, I like when people go on tangents because then it's authentic and you know that that's how they feel
Wow.
about
Well,
it.
this is how I feel.
See,
When I get very young people, I sort of try and discourage them.
see, one of the things that I will say to you, Angela, is if I stripped away
Mm,
everything, title, work title,
mm,
mother title,
mm.
wife title, and I said, who is Angela when she is in just her thoughts? What would you say to me?
I don't know how to answer that. I mean, I know I felt like I did a cop out earlier when I said I see me. I was hoping I would get away with that, but clearly not. Um, um, who do I
That's funny.
see? Okay, I see the person that I would have wanted to be as an 18-year-old.
Ooh.
I see someone who enjoys what she sees,
Mm-hmm.
enjoys what she does,
Mm-hmm.
who chooses what she does, who I was going to say chooses who she interacts with, but that's not it. As that Buddhist mindset I've come to understand, and believe it or not, I was always like that as a younger person, but now I understand it more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I accept everyone for who they are.
I like that.
Yes, I can choose who I spend my time with, but that's not the same as saying I'm going to avoid that person. If they're in my area, my remit, my workspace, I will treat them with as much kindness,
Yes.
even if that kindness means not interacting with them because I see they might get triggered for whatever
Mm-hmm.
reason. Whatever it is, I accept that. And so the person I see is this. Okay. Why am I laughing? Okay, so you notice the clothes I wear, right?
Right.
Loud.
No, hey, I'm in yellow.
Hey, true. um, so I see myself as young, independent, kind, reliable, honest. If I can do something, I'll do it. If I can't,
Mm.
if I said I would, then I'll come back to you and say I can't do it because not to excuse, but to explain to you why um, it's not going to happen. Not even that I let you down, because my trying to think of the right word. Just say any word. Huh. My my importance in my own health,
Mm-hmm.
personal health, dictates that I do not get into a state of worry thinking that I've let you down. So if it wasn't going to happen, I would have emailed, messaged, whatever. For example, I had a Zoom call yesterday afternoon for a coaching call, evening for a coaching call. And in the morning, I knew it was going to clash with something and I would be late. But I
Mm.
didn't want to let that person down because I know
Okay.
why they want to come to me for a coaching call. They need help, right? So in the morning, I emailed saying there is a possibility that I will be 5 to 10 minutes late, but I will be there. I will be there. But there is a possibility that I will be late. And I wanted you to know so that you didn't think that I was missing the appointment.
Mm-hmm.
It turned out that the person couldn't make the appointment because she had her own family emergency. But I
Ah.
sat there for that half-hour spate just in case she came into the Zoom call. I missed it in the evening because I had an early start today. But when I saw my emails this morning, it turned out, I think it was 9:30 or 10:30 or something like that. She'd emailed saying, I'm so sorry, had a family emergency and I completely forgot to email you and let you know I couldn't make it. I was okay with that. I wasn't angry with her. I wasn't annoyed that I'd waited half an hour because to satisfy my peace
Yes.
of mind, I
Mm-hmm.
had set my boundaries and was prepared to give it whatever time was necessary. So I feel that I am young. I still feel like that 18-year-old. I feel independent enough to choose how I wear my hair, even though time sometimes creeps in. Oh, look at that one! It's standing out. I think, yeah, it's all good. Uh,
Yes.
and I can move on and I can get back to myself pretty quick, right? If I'm doing something with my daughters or if I'm busy with something, and they want to chat with me, if it's that time sensitive, I say, I gotta get this down. Let me finish this. I'll come back to you.
Mhm.
I am open. I am honest with myself first, which means I actually give other people the respect they deserve. They know exactly where they stand. That is the person I see, and I am so happy with me. I can actually say I love me, and without it being a sort of like, egotistical whatever,
No, you're allowed to say it.
I am so at peace. I feel so balanced, so in the middle. Even when I go off on a spiral, which can happen when things suddenly everything seems to be going wrong, like getting on this Zoom call, I'm like, okay, take a breath, ask somebody because somebody else knows exactly what to do to troubleshoot.
Mhm.
Tell you what, 2 seconds, my daughter had it sorted. But anyway, um,
She's like, come on, mum, let just click, click. Yeah.
I'm sure she's told me before. But anyway, but I am able to not go so far that and this has been me when I was younger. I'd pick up something and lob it at the wall. It's not working.
Mm.
And then, of course, you have to come back to yourself because you made a fool of yourself, either in front of other people or you've now broken your only mouse or
Mhm.
something, right? I don't have any of that now. So when I say I'm happy, I'm at peace, I'm balanced. If things do go astray, I can as quickly as possible take a breath, or I can look at it and I think, okay, you know what? It will turn up when I tidy up. I
Mhm.
move away, and believe it or not, that thing appears. So, yeah, this is me.
I like this. So I've only got two more for you.
Okay.
And my second to last one is, if there was one song in the history of music, oh, she's thinking. If there was one song in the history of music that was the soundtrack of your life, what song would you choose and why would you choose that particular song?
I knew I should have prepared properly. Um, I forgot about this question. Um, trying to think. Don't know if I can remember the name. It's an Earth, Wind and Fire song.
Mm.
Is it Stars? Star?
Oh, hold on, hold on. Let me just go on. Right. Let me help. I like
And the
this one.
star shines so bright. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Oh my gosh, name's gone from me.
Boom.
Um,
There's
oh,
power. There's Power Light. There's September. There's
not
these are.
September.
There's, hold on. Let me find. They got a lot of albums, dude.
It's on my playlist.
Whoa.
It's on my playlist. I should know this one.
Whoa. Okay, let's go into one of that. Let's go into one of the albums and find out. So there's Power Light. In Power Light, there's Fall in Love with Me, Spread Your Love, Side by Side, Straight from the Heart,
Nope,
Speed of Love,
nope, nope,
Freedom
nope,
of Choice.
nope.
No,
Okay.
Miracles.
Oh, look what I'm doing to you. I'm so sorry.
No, no, no. Let me say it. There's
Uh,
that's September. Everyone knows September.
yeah, not September.
Shining Star.
Yeah,
Uh, is that the one?
I think it's Shining Star.
Should we play it? Hold on.
Yeah, play it, play it. Star. It's simply called Star.
Is it called Star?
Hang on. Can I play it?
Of course you can. That's
Can you
the
hear it?
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the one. That's my song. That would
See,
be it.
that's gonna go in. You know the reason why I asked this question, right?
No?
Because every season I do a playlist with everybody who's come on the show and I put their song into a playlist. It's pretty cool. And then I'm like, if you see, it's kind of a messed up playlist sometimes. Because it would go from like Earth, Wind and Fire to Coldplay.
Yeah.
And then from Coldplay to Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah.
And then Fleetwood Mac to like Kiss.
Yes, playlist, man. I bet you every single one of those songs are empowering in some shape or
No,
form.
they are actually. And then like it will go from like Kiss to Bob Marley. So
Love it.
and then Marcus Garvey. There's so many, but it's such a cool thing to do because you get to learn a lot about how people view themselves through a song,
Mm.
which is such an inspiring thing to do. But my last question is, before I say thank you for coming on the show, I would love for everyone to know where they can find you, how they can find you, and if you would be happy to give any information out so people can contact you.
Yes. Okay. Well, I'm on Instagram. I am a makeup artist, yes, but because my mission, I've decided in life, is to help other people with understanding their hair or
Hmm.
people whose hair they have to care for, um, to create this wholesome experience and empower from the word go. In Instagram, I am Afro Hair Coach.
Hmm.
You'll find all sorts in there, but mainly to do with my work. So it's either as a makeup artist, um, or as primarily an Afro hair coach or educator. Okay, so that's that. I am on Facebook as well. I have a Facebook group called Afro. Can I remember? Yeah, this is sad. The Afro and curly hair movement. That's it. I call it the Afro and curly hair movement, signifying the movement of Afro hair. And because I wanted to change people's viewpoint, it's not. I'm not teaching styling. I want to teach you h- how we can change the whole world's viewpoint. So it's a movement. It's like a revolution. So that's
I like
that.
that.
Um. I also have a website called Afro Hair Coach. I wanted to keep it nice and simple so people can find me. There are other natural hair coaches out there for sure, but I believe I'm the only Afro hair coach in Webland. So you can find me there.
It's actually quite true.
That is, it's a very simple website and just is a case of showing my courses, one-to-one coaching, or group coaching if necessary for TV, film, families. I also do community groups and stuff like that. So yeah, that's how you can find me, and I would more than welcome any contact, any question. Send
See,
it along.
Angela, this is where I say to you, thank you so much for, first of all, coming on the show. I always say time is precious and a beautiful thing. So when you share with people, that makes it something even better. So thank you so much for taking your time to come on the show, for showing your kindness, compassion, telling your story in your way with no filter, but most of all, helping to educate people from your perspective, and then being open to other opinions and not being afraid to show pain and just being the natural existence of who you are. Thank you so much.
Beyond words, it's been an honor. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And guys, I want to thank you so much for listening to the Us People podcast. And please remember, you can subscribe and leave us a review on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and any other platform that you prefer listening to. You can also find me every Tuesday where we put out the Us People podcast for you to listen to. You can also connect with me every Thursday live where I have a new guest at 8 p.m. UK time. And you can also watch that on LCBN TV. You can also see that on Apple TV, Fire TV, Free Food Channel 271. And every Wednesday, we replay any podcast that you may have missed on Heart Songs Lives at 9 p.m. UK time. And as always, this is when I say the most important part. Thank you for listening. Stay happy, stay positive, and as always, please continue to be kind to one another. Take care, guys. How is it for you? Okay.
It was so good. It was so good. It was refreshing. It's lovely to talk, uninhibited, if I could say so.
Of course you can.
Thank you for asking me some of those questions. Even though, yes, I know my story, it's nice to be able to share it. There was a time when, due to everything that had happened in my early life, the last thing I wanted to do was the last thing. I just, at all. So I hope it was done in as humble a way as possible, but I realized the importance of sharing, because otherwise people go through life thinking that there's something wrong with them.
Yes.
They don't realize that it's actually a part of life, and this is what you're supposed to feel. This is what it's like, but you don't have to react to it. There's nothing for you to do. Just say, well, this is what this feels like, and you add it to your experience and you go on, hopefully.